Hey guys, some of you guys might have seen a photo that we posted on Facebook recently, and it was just a scene like this, people driving along, and there was a van in front of us, quite a big van in front of us, full of workman tools, and the back door was open. The back door of the van was open, and it was quite obvious that he'd driven off from wherever he was, and he'd forgotten to close his back door, so the back door was open. So it was just a funny one. So we just posted it on Facebook and just said something about the lack of situational awareness in Japan is really common. And got a couple of comments, and one of them was from someone who has either spent time in Japan or lives in Japan, because they said, oh, you must be able to make a video with many examples of that, or don't we see that all the time, or something like that. So whoever the person was, they were suggesting that the lack of situational awareness examples in Japan are many, and it really is true. And it is one of those funny things when people who live in Japan, when people from other countries who live in Japan talk about different things here, quite often this one comes up, and there are a million examples of it. And again, as with most of these videos, they're just generalizations, and it's not everyone. Doesn't mean that every Japanese person is like this, but if you spend more than a day or so in Japan, it's really likely that you're going to see one of these examples. So let's begin. Let's begin. So first of all, we had the guy with his van. He had his back van door open. He's just driving along, totally oblivious. But some of the more common ones we see, when you talk to people who live here, foreigners that live in Japan, people from other countries who live in Japan, the one that most of them will mention is escalators and elevators, because that's one that we come across all the time. If you're in a shopping centre or some place that has escalators or elevators, quite often what will happen is the Japanese person in front of you will be going up in the escalator, and you get to the top, and they'll step off the escalator and stop and stand there and look around, trying to decide where it is that they're supposed to go. And of course the escalator's delivering more people behind them, obviously, right? Obviously. And because that's the other thing in Japan, is that there are a lot of people here. So quite often these situations are really, really accented because of the number of people here. So when someone steps off an escalator and stops and starts to look around to decide where it is that they want to go, that's really funny, because then 100 more people are delivered by the escalator to behind them. And elevators are the same. Quite often the elevator door opens and people step out and stand there and just look around. Where am I going? And totally oblivious to the fact that there's a whole heap of people coming out behind them, So that's really common. Another one's shopping. Quite often when you're shopping, people will be just stop. And this is older people, of course. I mean, probably you see this from older people around the world, but younger people too, It could be anybody. Old, young, male, female, could be anybody. And they'll just stop and just be looking at something or looking for something, and just standing there with their trolley and themselves blocking the aisle. And because this is the thing, Japan, of course, has lots of people and also quite often small spaces. So when you get someone who's has no situational awareness in a small space with lots of people, it really can cause not big problems, of course, but it means that you're forever saying excuse me, sumimasen, trying to get past people who are just standing there staring off into space, So that's really common in shops and shopping centres and things like that. And then the other one's cars. Bit of Japanglish over there. You guys can't quite see it. There's a truck over there that says, big letters on the side, human drivers. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, the other one's cars. Lack of situational awareness in cars, and you get that all the time as well, where they'll just stop. A little street somewhere, a little street like this, where there's nowhere to go. If someone stops, they pull over to the side here and stop, you still can't get around them without crossing the yellow line. And that'll be quite common too. They'll sort of just, where are we going? Where are we going? And they'll just stop. Guardman, these old guys. See, that guy says about 80 years old. He's not really, but you'll get it from the guardman as well. And And we made a video about this once before, saying that if the guardman says stop, then you should stop. But if the guardman says go, don't go without checking first. And this is a shocker. Guardaman who are controlling traffic with a lack of situational awareness. Yes, it's true. And this isn't like one example of this. We see this all the time, where you get the old guy standing there with his flag, and you'll actually drive right up to them sometimes, and they're just oblivious. They're just standing there with their flag, you know, and you drive right up to them, and they'll suddenly turn around and see you and sort of jump back because they didn't see you coming. They didn't expect to see a car driving down the road, and just totally oblivious to you being there. So of course, none of this is a big problem, you know, and again, there's always someone when we make videos like this, oh, you shouldn't be complaining, why are you complaining? We have not made one video out of our 5 million videos, or however many videos we've made, 3,500 videos, however many it is we've made. We've not made one video complaining, not one. It doesn't matter what the topic is, we're not complaining. All we're doing is reporting on what we see. So we show you the things that we see that are fantastic, and we show you the things that we see that probably aren't so fantastic, and whatever we see, whatever we experience, that's what we make videos about. We're not complaining, we're just showing you what it is and explaining what it is. And this is what the experience is like. So as often as possible with these videos, what we're trying to do is show you firsthand for yourself. Here it is happening right now. Thought about trying to do that with this video, but it's a bit tricky videos like this because, you know, it's a bit much, isn't it, to film. If we stood at the top of an escalator for a couple of hours, we'd probably get lots of footage to fit with this video, but it's a bit, we don't like to do that to people too much, you know. Look at these people who have no situational awareness, you know. It's sort of not real nice, is it? Telling you's enough, and for those of you who come here, you'll see it yourself anyway. You'll experience it yourself anyway, for sure, you know, just happens all the time. And particularly if people, and the other one is that families and things like that, you get it a lot as well, where they're just all standing around in the aisle of the supermarket, or the rest all standing around inside the entrance to the restaurant or something like that, and sumimasen, sorry, and because no one's doing it on purpose, and because Japanese people are super aware of the people around them, and try really hard to be considerate of the people around them. So they're not doing it on purpose, and as soon as they realise, they're always like, oh, sorry, you know, sumimasen, and come in to say, and they'll get out of your way. So they're not doing it on purpose, and they're definitely embarrassed when they realise that they're doing it. You know, oh, sorry. But it's scary. Look, that car just about coming out then too. There's another one, not just cars, but bikes is another one. Bicycles and pedestrians, that's a really important, that's a potentially really dangerous one, and we do see tragic consequences of that one. Really common for people to ride across the street on their bicycle in an intersection like this one, or just randomly in a street like this, just randomly appear out of a side street and shoot across into another side street right in front of you without looking. And again, it could be young school students, or it could be old people, just looking straight ahead. And you see this all the time here, just looking straight ahead and just go straight through. And just freaky, you know, on a little road like this, and suddenly a biker will appear out of a little side street and shoot across and disappear into the side street on the other side. And if you're not paying attention, you know, and don't hit the brake in time, you could easily hit them, you know. And pedestrians too, you often see pedestrians here just blindly walking across the street, staring at the smartphone, or just staring into space, staring straight ahead. There's an interesting thing in Japan, people sort of respect each other's privacy by not looking at each other. You can actually walk right up to someone you know here and stand right beside them, and they won't know you're standing there until you say hello, and then they'll jump. And it's a sort of it seems to be because there's so many people in such a small space. It's one of the ways that Japanese people give respect and distance to other people. So when they walk down the street, they don't look at the houses around them as they're walking down the street, or, you know, they don't look at the people coming the other way very much, or you know, it's actually quite hard to get people's attention here sometimes, because out of respect for other people, they don't eyeball people. like we do in a lot of other countries, you know, and it's possibly part of that when they're walking somewhere or going somewhere, quite often they're just looking straight ahead and they don't look left or right, they're just going straight ahead. Look at this lady here walking across the street, classic example. She's totally trusting that we're going to stop and the car coming the other way is going to stop. She didn't look either way, did she? She was just staring straight ahead, hiding under her umbrella. And that's a classic example. And of course the problem where that falls down is when a car doesn't stop. When a car isn't looking, isn't paying attention and doesn't stop, and she won't see it because it'll just hit her, and that's the first she'll know about it. So you got to watch that. We've talked about that before on a previous video. If you're driving in Japan, you got to really watch out for that. Just lack of situational awareness. There can be car drivers as well. Car driver will pull up to it from a side street here, and you assume that they've seen you coming down the street, and they quite possibly haven't. So you've got to be really, really paying attention because they could suddenly shoot out in front of you. So it's true, and there's no doubt that anybody who's watching this that spent time in Japan is probably sitting there laughing and nodding furiously because and we'll probably see, if you have a look at the comment section underneath this video, you'll probably see other examples because there's lots. No doubt, as soon as I turn the cameras off, no doubt I'm going to think of a whole heap more examples because it's endless. It's absolutely endless. I mean, thought of new ones just driving down the street here, right? Because we saw them, didn't we? So it's just endless, the examples of this. Lack of situational awareness. And the danger stuff, the groups of people thing, it's another aspect. There's probably lots of aspects, like with all these things, there's a lot of reasons for it. One of the other reasons for it too is probably that Japanese society, everyone's always told if sort of what to do, where to go. You know, there's either a standard way, a standard system or a standard rule that they follow on how they should do things, or someone telling them, you know, the ubiquitous gardaman, you know, anywhere you get more than 2 people, you'll have a gardaman telling you which way to go. And a lot of the stuff like that just means that people don't have to think terribly much. You know, they don't have to be really situational aware because they'll be told where to go. Come over here, stand here, come over here, wait here. You know, don't go there, go over there, park here, go there. You know, it's what living in Japan is like. And so you don't need to have a sort of a situational awareness about where you're going and what you're doing and what's happening around you. You know what I mean? People aren't tuned to doing that. They just sort of automatically do their thing. So anyway, there's one for people who've been to Japan that's something a bit nostalgic for you, and for those of you who might come in the future, look out for this because you'll see it, guaranteed. In the first 48 hours in Japan, you'll see an example of this. And then those of you who aren't going to come to Japan, I hope you found it interesting anyway. More videos coming soon.